Hey, welcome back, friends. Here another episode of Azure Fun with Azure ADF Part 4. So let's have a look what we're gonna talk about and do actually on screen in this session. So on the right hand side you can see this is what we're gonna do today. So we're gonna install the self-hosted runtime on the self-hosted runtime VM, and then we're gonna connect to the SQL table. This time from Data Factory. Last time we connected to a SQL table from SQL Server Management Studio. This time from a Data Factory, right? And then once this is done, we can analyze this data and bring it into the storage account. Last time is what we did on the left-hand side. This is part 3, just in case you want to review that one. So we created a SQL VM. We connected to that VM from the self-hosted runtime via Management Studio, and then we generated a database table, so that we have something that we can actually import. This could simulate like an on-premise source system, or also a system that is hosted in Azure in a private network. Okay, so that is this, and this is sort of the playground that we want to build overall. And you see the red arrow. The focus basically points back to the self-hosted runtime now that we want to install on that VM, right? And overall, we want to do what's on screen. The private endpoints, they come later, but initially we're going to start with moving data from that self-hosted runtime VM, actually from that SQL Server VM through the self-hosted runtime VM into a data lake and eventually into Azure SQL, so that we can then visualize this data in Power BI, right? So that is that. Let me head over to something else here. Let me show you here. This is our resource group that we have. This is all the VMs that we built so far and stuff. And I can tell you already that we did, let me get oriented here. So we have the self-hosted runtime. So here, this is then the data factory. Okay, so let's go into the data factory just to give you an idea. So this is actually when you let me go through that real quick. Let me close that. Let me open that. So when we, from the Azure portal, when we open Data Factory Studio, this is the data factory that we generated in ADF Part 1. We haven't touched it in a while, but now we're gonna come back to that. And when we go over to Manage, there is an integration runtime section here. Now you see there is already an entry for self-hosted runtime, and this is because I pre-generated this in preparation for this video. Normally you would not see this. Normally you have only one, right? The auto-resolve integrated runtime. But this one doesn't allow us to connect to that SQL server behind that VNet. So that's why we actually set up this self-hosted runtime on the self-hosted runtime VM. And from through that we can actually then connect. So let me head over to the process of provisioning. So when you, and this is actually here, but you can see there's a button here that says new, and there's a couple of dialogues. So you need a Azure self-hosted runtime, and there's another choice after that, and then you hit that self-hosted there, and eventually you're gonna arrive at this screen, and there's gonna be a link. There's the first one is the Express setup. That's not what we're gonna do here. The second one is the one that I want you to use. And then you can actually hit that link and you would come up here. And then what I did is copy that link into my VM, which is here. And then you would be able to download it. And that's exactly what I did. So you can already see the integrated runtime is downloaded here. And it's not a huge file or anything like that. I just did this in preparation, so we can then keep going with the installation and then eventually with the access. So let me kick this off. and so that we get the installation forward. This is on the self-hosted runtime VM, and while this is installing, I can show you a couple of other things. Obviously, we need to accept the license. You see here, this is the default path. I'm okay with that. You may choose something else, but then the installation here is in progress, right? And let's run this a little bit. It's not a very long installation. It's actually pretty quickly done. The way I remember it from my last installation. May take a minute, so let me get back to this, but because we probably don't need to look, progressing bar, but I wanted to show you real quick. This is the remote SQL Server. This is our telemetry database. This is what we generated last time, and here I'm accessing it through the Management Studio tool. And if I execute this query here, obviously we still see data. So we have connectivity to that database and that single table here. And that's basically the table that we're going to work with to be imported. It's not so important here what this data is, but just so you know, this is basically engine telemetry data that needs to be ingested here. And there's a device and there's several measures, and so you can basically look at this as engine performance data for these different KPIs that we have in that data set. Okay, and then let's head back over to the installation and see where the installation is. Hopefully it progressed and did good things, and it completed, which is good. So let's finish. And once it's finished, you present it with kind of this screen here. And now you need to head back to the self-hosted runtime VM and basically copy this beautiful key. Don't worry about anything trying to get access or anything. I'm gonna delete this environment after the video is generated. So even if you pull it, it won't be of any help to you. Okay, just in case you try it. All right, so I don't want to show the key, obviously, the whole key, and then I put this in, and that's pretty much it. We're gonna cover these more detailed sessions here, but the diagnostic tool is actually quite helpful. So you can actually hit this now, and then you would see if there is any problem. And it brings you up this nice little report here, and obviously this is okay for now, which is helpful. Wait just 1 second. So there is obviously multiple aspects to this report. Just give it a second here till this connectivity problem resolves. Sometimes I do have that. So let's close out of here, and let's go back, and then let's hit that register button. And now it's just registering. I don't want to enable the access mode, and it's actually went through already. Did it? No, it did not. So let's say finish. And now it's basically working away. You can see it's basically updating the status here. This is not the most clearest way of showing this, but this is how it's doing. Okay, so let's see how this progresses. And then we should be able to connect. And you see now, this is kind of what we want to see here. Node has been successfully registered. You can add multiple nodes to it. This might be something else that we want to look at eventually in the future. And then we just launch the configuration manager. That's also okay. This is basically the tool that runs the service. Keep in mind, under the hood, it's basically running a service. So this is all there now. So now the big question is, when we go back to the data factory, let's close this one out. Let's close that one out and go here and close this one. We should also see this one here refreshing to being available now, or in preparation, or something around those lines. And you see it's already running, which is definitely good. So now that we have an integrated runtime that allows us to access that SQL server, now we can actually start like development work. So let's go to author, right? And then let's go to a pipeline. And let's say new pipeline. And next time, this is actually what we're gonna do next time. I figure this is better off in the next video. But let me go back real quick and show you what we did this time. But here we basically installed the self-hosted runtime successfully on that computer. And this is now running. That service is now running, and this is basically what I wanted to do in that video. And then in the next video, we're gonna look at executing it basically through Data Factory. All right. Hope that was helpful, and talk soon. Cheers, guys.